So a while ago on Twitter, I saw something that intrigued me. This right here is what I saw. Basically, it's a graphic going over what this user believed to be the 10 best decks in Clash Royale history. Now, unfortunately, I don't remember who actually made this because I never liked the tweet, and I found this like 2 months ago. So if you are the creator of this graphic, let me know and I will give you full credit, but as of now, I don't know who made it. But what I thought would be fun is I could go through all 10 of these decks, share my thoughts about them, and determine for real what is the best deck in Clash Royale history. If you end up enjoying this video, I'd appreciate it if you leave a like and subscribe, and also leave a comment on what you think is the best deck in Clash Royale history. So let's go ahead and get started. Up first, we have Royal Giant Cycle. Now, this Royal Giant Cycle deck isn't from too long ago. It is about from the summer of 2020, around June or July or so. And because it was so recent, I vividly remember the strength of this deck. The biggest thing that made this deck as strong as it was were the Skeleton Dragons. At the peak of this deck, the Skeleton Dragons were arguably the best card in Clash Royale, and they complemented the Royal Giant super well. When you also threw in amazing cards at the time, such as the Hunter, Heal Spirit, and Fisherman, this deck was incredibly hard to stop. Next up, we have 4.0 Graveyard Barb Hut. Now, if you ask me, this may be the best defensive deck in Clash Royale history. The peak of this deck was about November 2020. This was actually the first deck that I hit 6,300 trophies with, and it was just absolutely absurd at the time. The Barb Hut was just about the strongest building in the game. The Graveyard was about the best win condition in the game, and when you pair other incredible defensive cards like the Knight, Baby Dragon, Electro Wiz, and Mega Minion with this deck, it just made it almost unbeatable unless you were playing a mirror matchup. Yeah, I actually made a video on this deck when it was at its peak. You guys should definitely go check that out. I'll leave a link to it down in the description below if you guys want to. Next up, we have Split Lane Shenanigans with the Royal Hogs and the Zappies. Now, to be honest, when I saw this deck on that list, I was a little bit surprised. It is a deck that I do remember, but it's a very faint memory because I honestly don't remember this deck being too terribly strong in Clash Royale. I believe at the time what made this deck super strong was the Magic Archer and the Zappies, as they were two of the best cards in Clash Royale at the time. But still, there really isn't anything about this deck that's like totally earth-shattering and game-breaking, if you ask me. So to be honest, I think this deck is kind of forgettable. Then next up, we have Hog Trifecta. Now, if you don't know what Hog Trifecta means, that basically means it is the trio of the Hog Rider, the Musketeer, and the Valkyrie in one deck. Now, this is a major throwback. This is like 2016 Clash Royale, one of the OG decks because the Elixir Pump was in here. At the time, the Elixir Pump was only 5 Elixir. It was one of the best cards in the game, and this deck overall was one of the better decks in Clash Royale at the time. Of course, this would never hold up today because the Elixir Pump is kind of trash, and you normally don't play poison with Hog Rider decks as well, but at the time this was a very solid deck. Then next up, we have another deck featuring the Barb Hut, but this time with the 3 Musketeers as well. This deck again is a very faint memory. I don't remember much about it. What I do remember is that when this deck was prominent, it was pretty dang good. It, of course, is a Fireball bait deck because we have cards like the 3 Musketeers, the Flying Machine, the Barb Hut, and the Battle Ram. And even though it is 4.4 Elixir, if you could hold out until double Elixir and get your Barb Huts rolling, this deck was nasty back in the day. I'm saying back in the day like it was a long time ago. What, this was like 2019? So not that long ago. Then we have another 3 Musketeers deck, this time featuring the Miner with some Swarm. Now, when I think of 3 Musketeer decks in Clash Royale history, there are 2 in particular that come to mind. We have Giant 3 Musketeers, and then we also have this 3 Musketeers deck. This is the quintessential 3 Musketeers deck. You pump up in single Elixir, get your Musketeers going in double Elixir, spam at the bridge with your Battle Ram and your Swarm, get Miners going on the tower, and you just rock and roll with that. And this deck was pretty solid for a pretty long time, actually. Of course, recently 3 Musketeers haven't been that good, but like through 2016 to 2018, 3 Musketeers were pretty much something that was always relevant in Clash Royale. It's actually crazy how consistent 3 Musketeers were for a very long time. Then we have Goizen, the combo of the Giant and the Poison. Now, in terms of decks being broken in Clash Royale, I think this was one of the first. The biggest thing about this deck that made it so good was that the Poison at the time, along with doing its damage over time, it used to slow down cards as well. And so when you pair that with the Giant and beat down with the Prince and the Mega Minion with an Elixir Pump as well, that's just hard to stop. It's just unreal. Then we have one of my personal favorites, Night Witch Bridge Spam. And the reason it's one of my favorites is because the Night Witch is my favorite card. And she in particular is what made this deck so strong. You could definitely make a very strong case that the Night Witch, upon her release in 2017, is the best card in the history of Clash Royale. You could 100% argue that point. And putting her in this deck with one of the OG kind of variants of Bridge Spam, it was just very good at the time. Then we have P.E.K.K.A. Minor Control. Similar to Graveyard Barb Hut, you could definitely argue that this is one of the best defensive decks in Clash Royale history. I mean, you have the P.E.K.K.A. to deal with the tanks, you have the Goblin Hut for things like Hog Riders and crap. The Zappies at this point were incredibly strong and had a very good first attack speed, and then you just chip away with the Miner and the poison on your enemy tower, and like, it was unreal, this deck at the time. And then last but not least, we have this deck right here. So I have very vivid memories of this deck. It was late 2019, season 4, the Elixir Golem first came out. The Witch just got an absolutely incredible rework. The Night Witch got buffed, the Fisherman got buffed, and then boom, we have this deck. I think in terms of pure strength of individual cards within a deck, this deck takes the cake for sure. I mean, each card in this deck had at least a 20% usage rate. Even the Mega Minion had at least a 20% usage rate. The Witch and the Poison were above 40%. The Night Witch and the Fisherman were chilling in the 30s. Elixir Golem as well. The Sparky was like at 25% as well. This deck is unreal. So now, out of these 10 Clash Royale decks, which one is the best? Well, let me give you my top 3. Coming in at number 3, we have Goizen. As I said, this is honestly the first deck in Clash Royale that I remember genuinely being broken and genuinely being meta-defining. Coming in at number 2, we have Graveyard Barb Hut. I definitely believe that this is the strongest defensive deck in the history of Clash Royale. And then number 1 for being the best deck in Clash Royale history, at least from this list, has to be the Elixir Golem deck. As I said, every individual card in this deck was extremely good at the time, and you just threw them all together, and I believe we have one of the best decks in Clash Royale history, if not the best deck in Clash Royale history. Then I feel like I should throw some honorable mentions in there for my top 3. Honestly, Royal Giant Fisherman I think deserves to be an honorable mention because the Skeleton Dragons Hunter Fisherman on defense was unreal. Then you play your Royal Giant and you take tower. Then another one I consider was the Three Musketeers deck, again because of its consistency and how strong it was for such a long period of time. Definitely makes it deserving of being one of the best decks, but not quite on that pedestal. So there we have it, 10 of the best decks in Clash Royale history. I know that this video was a little bit different from the norm, but I hope you guys enjoyed anyway. And if you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe down below. I'd greatly appreciate it. But anyway, gamers, it's your boy SolarFury signing off. Peace out, guys. Have a nice day.